Welcome to another edition of J-Man in the Garage. I probably should be doing something more efficient in the house, but I think today we're going to do a project. I went into the storage for my wood shed there, and I found three planks here that are pine. They're tongue and groove, which is going to be a little bit of a problem to do a project with. So I think what I'm going to do right now is try to do something with these three pieces of pine. Instead of throwing them out, let's try to build something. Okay, we're back again, and I've taken the time to rip both sides of each of those pieces so I can remove the tongue and groove. So now I've got boards. I still have the routed side. That's what I wanted for my drum room, and I'm only going to be using the finished top side without the rotoring to try to create something. So I started thinking about what it is that I wanted to do, and I said, why don't I build myself a board game, a marble game? Buddies of mine, we've been playing some games, and I've kind of been intrigued with a game called Fast Track. So I figured, you know what, I'm going to build one. Now, in order to build this, I'm going to need a 20 by 20 inch square. Obviously, this isn't going to cut it too small. So what I have done is I've taken one of those three pieces, just as a quick little template, and I measured out about 21 inches long, and that will be something that what I plan on doing now is cutting the rest of them that same height. And we're going to do a laminate, and we are going to do a glue up, and we're going to see what we can create here. Can I make a panel? Can I make something that I can put a board game on? So that's kind of where we're at. That's my thinking. I hope you enjoy the video. In order to build the Fast Track game effectively, it was an idea that I had to build a template before actually just trying to plunge marble holes into a tabletop. So you can see on the screen in front of you that there is the basic idea behind the template. And what I did was simply cut a 20 inch by 20 inch half-inch plywood and took it inside and drew the appropriate lines and the appropriate markings as you see on the paper in front of you. And once I had that done, then I went to the drill press and my dovetail table and came up with an idea as to how I was going to build that particular template. Once the template has been built, then you should be able to duplicate that on a number of any game boards that you design. Now, one of the features that I used to my advantage is I used a Forstner wave bit, and those kinds of drill bits will really drill a nice clean hole in the plywood, making a router with a bushing pretty much 1-to-1 in terms of nice straight cuts and grooves. So let's move forward, and we'll see a little bit of a video to sort of identify some of the procedures that I used without actually going through every single step. Get your hand, drop your hand. Sometimes, depending upon the project that you're working on, you can't make it work in the shortened landscape mode. Sometimes we do need to work on the full 48 inches of the table. So come on over here and I'll show you just a little bit about what we've got. You can see right here that I've designed a 48 inch fence that allows me to, I'm just currently working on pressing a game board here. And you can see what with the full length of this fence here, I can actually move the perpendicular fence to the original, and I can continue to move that up and down on the same line, keeping my game board flush to the original fence, and then moving this other fence right up to the board, and then going ahead and drilling my next hole, loosening things off, and then sliding once again, and then the same idea. Press, press, press. It keeps all the holes in perfect alignment. Now this table has beautiful applications for this specially designed drill press, which allows me quite an extension of room to allow me to make this kind of a game in a very easy fashion and very accurate fashion. Okay, we're back again and we're having a quick look at how the fence structure and the clamping structure on the table will help us complete the game. Now what I've got here is I've now changed my format to the landscape format, and I've now got this thing tied down nicely. So essentially what we've got here is a fence that is riding along one side and a fence in the back holding it in its square position. So right now, the only thing that I want to do to make sure that it's being held is I'm going to use one of my new micro jig clamps, which slides right into my dovetail, and then I just give it a little bit of a reef here, and we are now good to go. So with that in mind, I'm going to take the first one and I'm going to plunge it through. Now I'm using a Forstner bit, but it's a wave cutting Forstner bit. As I was saying, I'm using a Forstner wave cutting bit, and this is really giving me nice true cuts all the way through the template, which is what we really want to do, because if that's clean cut, then when we route the marble holes, they should come out really, really well. So what we're going to do here, while we're still on camera, we'll take off the we'll take off the pressure here from the clamp, and then we're going to take this part out and we'll just remove the waste. And of course, there's our first of our marble holes here. Now, since this is the way we were drilling it before, now what we're going to do is we're going to rotate it. And again, now that we've got it set up, we should be able to put that right back in place, and we should be able to drill right into that spot. And we are bang on. So once again, just simply drop the clamp, hold everything in place, and flip on the drill press and get a good look. And here we go. Are we back on? Now that we've drilled the second hole, you can see what I'm talking about in terms of making everything match up. So I should be able to take this one out of here now. And again, remove the waste. And there's again our first hole for our marble. So we would continue to do this over and over again, so I can make one setting happen. And I can get 4 holes drilled very quickly without guesstimating where they should be. And I think this is the advantage of trying to get nice and accurate. There's definitely an advantage to having something like this. Lots of you have drill presses at home. No question that they do a beautiful job. This one again has been calibrated so that it's perpendicular both directions. So essentially what this does, how do you put a 20-inch by 20-inch piece of wood on your drill press and keep it steady and straight and everything else? Whereas now we've got a beautiful table here that's very large in dimension. I can slide at least up to 20 to 21 inches underneath that to allow me to drill holes in either direction. Not only that, I can release the table and I can work from one extreme end to the other, and I have a full range. I can pretty much cut 48-inch holes. I can be doing a big panel and have no problem doing as many holes as I want all through the entire panel. So there's definitely some advantages to the way that we've got it set up. This micro jig match fit top that I built with my router has done me really well in its early stages, and I think this is going to really work out quite well in the long run. Okay, well, now that we're finished with our template, I just wanted to show you how it all came out. Pretty darn straight and now it's designed. This is a 1/2-inch plywood here. This is designed with a bushing in mind with our router, and now we should be able to plunge through our marble divot hole maker there, and we should be able to create our games. Really came out quite well. Quite pleased with the way that the wave cutter blasted through the holes, and nice and clean and sharp. So just wanted to show you what that final template would look like. Have a good one. Okay, it's time for the game board. If you remember, we started with 3 pieces of pine at the beginning of the video, and we had to run them through the table saw to remove all the tongue and groove. From that point, I took the table saw and also cut 5 slabs, each of which are about 21 inches in length. And you can see in this picture that I have prepared them in a pipe clamp setup and did a 5 slab glue up. So basically what I did was put the glue in between after I had made sure that the edges were relatively tight, and let them stay clamped overnight. And here we are the next morning, and we are ready to unfold and remove the clamps and see just what exactly we have created. Another application of the dovetail table is something as simple as, well, I've just finished a laminate, so I've just finished putting together 5 panels, and we're in a little rough shape now. So what we want to do is get everything smoothened down, and then we want to go ahead and cut it to the right size. So what I'm going to do right now is I'm going to walk over to my table, and when we drop it on the table, and you know, find a place where you're comfortable, a place where you really want to get busy with the sanding. And I'm going to grab 2 of my micro jig clamps, just something very simple, run them through, and drop that one in place. And if I want to sand over on this side to begin with, now I'll just bring this maybe not too close, maybe about halfway, drop the clamp down, and away we go. Now all I have to do is grab my palm sander and start taking care of business right here first, and then work my way all the way through the board. So again, another simple application, simple, no muss, no fuss, quick clamping, and we're back in action. We don't have to sit there and try to figure things out over a table. Okay, now the sanding's done. I did the top side, and now I've just completed the bottom side here. In order to do some of the squeeze out, it hardened up a little bit on the back side. So I took a belt sander just to the grain, just to the joints, just to get rid of most of the glue, and then I just used my palm sander here just to sort of smoothen things out. Again, just going to remove the clamps now and have a look and see what we've got. Back side is nice and flat, and look at that for my very first laminate there. That is not too bad, okay? And certainly it doesn't matter which way to go. You know, the lines are pretty tight, and the router, I did use the router to joint a little bit along with my table saw. So overall, pretty darn nice. We're going to see now what happens. We're gonna cut it down to size, and then what we're going to do is lay the game template on top of the board, clamp her down, and we are going to plunge route a fast track game. Let's see how it works out. All right, we're back again. I just came back from the router table and squared my edges off. I've now created the final cut. So usually when you do a glue up, you make the size of the panel that you're looking for is a little bit oversized, and then you cut it to exactly what you're needing when you're finished. And so what I was able to do, I wanted a 20 by 20 square, and that is now what I have created here on this. So now that I've got the 20 by 20 square, I was thinking before I started pressing the game with the plunge router, I thought perhaps I would try to make some a chamfer on the base or the bottom of my game so that it will be easier to lift. So I'm just gonna, if you take a look at my router table over here, you'll notice that I've got a chamfer bit on here. And so it's a large bit. We're gonna move it slow, and we're just gonna, we'll chamfer one side just so that you can see. And again, because I don't wanna mess up my top edge, I'm chamfering the bottom. If I was looking to chamfer an edge on the top of the game, then I would have to put the top of the game on the top of the router table. Okay, so let's begin, and we'll run it through very quickly here. We'll take a look and see what it looks like after we're done. And there you have it, a perfect chamfer. So now when we actually put the game board down, we will actually have a quick little angle here so that we can get our fingers under the board game and we can lift it up. So I'll just take a moment now and finish the rest of the board, then I'll come back and we'll take a look at our next stage. All right, we're moving on to the next stage here now, and before we actually get into the plunge routing, I wanted to just share a couple of ideas that I had. First of all, the router itself, in order to make sure, I want to just quickly show you that I've already got the router set, but I'm going to release it and bring it down so you can see that what I've got here is a bushing, and that bushing is identical to the size of my template, so there's no movement or wiggle room in there. It's just straight up and down. That's the advantage of having a quality template. And this depth of the, this is a plunge ball router bit. The advantage of that, of course, is it's going to be able to put in nice marble holes. Now, I've already done the setting of that router, and I just had a rough piece of wood underneath here and tried a couple of different depths in a couple of different holes, and then took the marble and decided, again, there's no real specific set of rules in terms of what depth to go. This one was too shallow. I like this one, so the router's set at that one right now, and this is the depth that we're going to be going at. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move everything over to my dovetail table, and I'm going to clamp things down, and I will get right back to you once that's all done. Okay, now we're back at the dovetail table, and we've got things clamped down. I've got my 4 micro jig dovetail clamps working right now, and once I have now got the board squared, the template squared over the board, it's pretty much set in place, so I don't really want to be moving it around. You'll notice that I've got my bushing sitting right here at the end, the 3/4 bushing. All I need to do is drop it carefully into the hole. You'll notice there's no slop, it just sits perfectly in there. So now it's just a matter of taking time. In a project like this, this is what I call this is all for the marbles, and no pun intended, okay? Because essentially we are trying to make a finished product here. If we can get that the marble holes to lay in properly, then we are essentially in great shape to do the final preparation on the surface, and then we should be able to do any decorative components to the tabletop or the game top, and we should be ready to go. So let me just quickly demonstrate how it's going to look, and then I'm going to step away from the camera. I'll finish the routing. I guess the one thing that I need to show you is that obviously with the size of the base, when we get near anything that's near a clamp, that's going to be a problem. So that's why we have 4 of the dovetail clamps on here. If need be, or when need be, we're going to loosen off this one. We're going to move it to a different location. We'll move the router over to where we need to be. And of course, we're going to clamp this one back in a different spot. And as long as we keep 3 out of the 4 clamps going on the board, nothing should move around, we should be in great shape. So this is what it's going to sound like. It's a little noisy. The router's been already set to the proper depth. I just have to release the pressure on the plunge and then take it all the way down. And it will seat perfectly, and then I'll bring it back up, and there's my first hole plunge. And I'll do the rest of the board, and then I'll get back to you. Well, that's it. We've now done the final plunge. Let's have a look and see how things have turned out. I'm just going to move my router out of the way. Okay, let's see how things are going to shake out here. We'll loosen off the micro jigs. They were very easy to move around all the way through the project. The board never made any movements. It's awesome. So we're very happy about the way this works. So simple to clamp, so easy to work from. We'll take off the template. And let's take a look and see what we've got here. I'll take it up and I'll take a brush to it very quickly. And lo and behold, this looks absolutely stellar. Now the only thing that I noticed here was that unfortunately one of the holes was right in one of the areas where the knots were. So we'll take a look and see how that worked out. Now this is my first try at it, and I'm going to be doing more boards, so I'll keep those kinds of things in mind. All the other knots that I had in the pine here seem to be away from the hole drilling, so no issues. But overall, that pattern looks darn nice, and it looks very nice that the marbles are going to sit on here perfectly. I think we're going to be in great shape. Check out a few shots. In order to finish off the project, I had an idea that perhaps I wanted to make a quick little jig to make a circle around the initial starting points for the marbles. And so what I had done was go to my bandsaw, and I had actually used a circle jig that I built, and I determined the diameter that I was looking for, and essentially once I had cut the circle, I in fact just removed the centerpiece and kept the actual plywood template that you're seeing right now, the very light wood. What I had to do was screw that template onto a larger board in order for me to provide clamping capability and still allow the router to move when I want to move around the circle. So you can see here that I'm just clamping things up, and I now have the circle centered in the right location. So take your time here, because you definitely don't want an off-centered circle where the marbles that are supposed to be at your starting points don't look quite right because the circle is not centered. So take your time here, do quite a bit of the measurements. Once you have satisfaction, clamp things down, and then you grab hold of the router. And once you do that, you'll notice that in the router I have a very small bushing that allows me to move a 1/4 inch cove bit that has been set to the proper depth. And so what you have to do is you have to lay that router down into the circle, and you have to make sure that it is going to stay just on the extremes of the circle. So be very careful and take your time when you're moving the router all the way around the circle so that it stays against the circle. That way you're ensuring yourself of a nice perfect circle around the marble holes that you were looking to do. And once you do one corner, then you reset each corner separately, one at a time, until you have all 4 corners completed. And that's exactly what I did. It's a little nerve-wracking because you could screw the game board up in a heartbeat, so you have to be very, very careful. But at the end of the day, you can see what my final product looked like. The circles came out really, really well, and I'm very proud of the final outcome. Well, we finally made it. The project is complete, or very close to complete. We haven't done the coloring up of the various home bases and the final positions, but we're basically there. Remember, we had 3 planks of pine, and from these 3 planks of pine, we were able to get very creative and produce a very fine-looking fast track game board. Now, once we get the final colorings in there, this is going to be a definite keeper. Better than throwing out the wood, don't you think? Thank you.